In this episode of We Do A Little, we are joined by our good friend Michael Jerome, aka Threadguy. Threadguy is a prominent personality on Twitter Spaces and also a director of vibes working with Jenkins the valet. We dive into his background before entering the space, dropping out of college, the dynamics of doxing versus being pseudo-anonymous, preparing for life as a creator in a post-Twitter world, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Andy, Deeze, and guests may own NFTs discussed.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm Deeze.
We're live. We're here with Threadguy. We're in Miami. We're vibing. A man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him a shitty introduction anyway. Threadguy's the second ever director of vibes behind me. And just like the first other person I noticed being a director of vibes in this space. You've been around being a director of vibes since last summer. And that's the intro. Glad you're here. Glad to vibe. How are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing great. Happy we could finally set this up, make it happen. And thank you for the job title. Director of Vibes. Stole it from the man himself.
That whole thing is hilarious. Like, Matt was texting me and he was like, how do we get a Deeze? And I was like, you don't get a Deeze. Like, that's just not, like, you don't just like find another person who's like Deeze. I was like, you just got to find someone who's like good vibes, chill. And he was like, is like the director of vibes a real job? And I'm like, yeah, no, it totally is. Like, it's very legitimate.
Is it a real job?
The toughest question I get since taking the director of vibes job is, what do you do? I'm like, how much time do you have?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Depends on what week it is. Depends on how things are going.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say? Well, I guess what were you doing prior to becoming the director of vibes? What was I guess like more in general, like prior to crypto shit, and then like getting into crypto? How did you find yourself there?
Yeah, so I'll give you like a quick kind of rundown. So I was really big in like sneaker reselling, sneaker Twitter, they called it. And specifically,
shout out the good old days. I used to write bots for all that shit.
Shout out. I know he's got the new kicks on. Shout out the Nike sneakers days. Was big in the sneaker reselling scene and specifically sports cards. And so when the COVID kind of boom happened and all you MFers were making millions in crypto, I was flipping fucking Zion cards. That went crazy. I was lucky enough to get into Top Shot in like November of 2020.
That was a good time to get in.
That was a good time to get in. Had no money, but we were buying, S1 moments for like $2 in 2020. Had no idea what I was doing. That was my first crypto/NFT purchase ever, and was just didn't understand the space, but I understood sports cards. And I was like, okay, I can get behind these digital cards. Made some money in Top Shot. Pretty much sold the top. Maybe the first and only time I sold the top before the February-March crash. And I basically threw my money into some shit coins, took a little bit out, didn't understand the Basie mint, didn't understand CryptoPunks, basically stepped away. That whole spring, that whole summer of 2021, did nothing with crypto. And I kind of had like this light bulb moment because I still followed Pranksy and Nate Alex and whoever on Twitter. I knew there was a real opportunity to make money. And I saw this, I think it was Pranksy, bought or sold a zombie punk for like $1.5 million. And I had like a fuck it moment. Like, I'm getting back into this. I created the Threadguy Twitter in August of 21. And probably a week after the Twitter, dropped out of school and was like, I'm going to fucking do this Twitter thing full time. So it started with Twitter threads. I would find a project that I liked. Kind of my intent was only a project I can write 25 tweets or more on, which is like the thread max. So I would like try to go overboard and force myself to find a project with substance. Started writing threads and it really took off from there. Obviously my content has evolved a lot, but that's kind of the start and where it kicked off.
And so when you were like, all right, fuck it, I'm dropping out of school, were your parents like, sick, nice, it's crypto Twitter, that's a good choice? Or with like, Were the people in your life who you told that to like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
So, like, my friends were definitely like, what the fuck are you doing? I didn't tell most people until I had sort of made a name for myself, because I was like, I'm just going to be in the mud, keep it on the DL, and just see what happens. My parents were a little like, are you sure? But I made a little money with Top Shot, enough where they're like, all right, there's something here. And basically the agreement was like, let me take a semester off school, right? Like, what's a semester? Everyone that goes to school is here for 6 years anyways. Like, what's 6 months off? What's 5 months?
Dude, you picked the best fucking semester.
Bro, the best month, really. August of 21.
Like,
I mean,
couldn't have picked the better semester, really.
It was insane. I just wish I knew what the fuck I was doing in August, but it was really like the day I started my account, it was up only in Twitter growth, up only in the market. Like, every and anything was just going crazy. That was a euphoric time.
Oh yeah, that was like, I think that was probably the craziest time. Like, Top Shot in January and February of 21 was insane in Top Shot. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm literally every day refreshing my account and I'm like, holy fuck, it's worth this much now.
This
and the
can't
next
be
day,
real.
It's like,
is this really happening?
Yeah. And it was like, over the course of like 2 weeks, my account went to, it was like, okay, maybe in 20 years this will be, and it was like totally insane. But that was really contained, I feel like. And then August was just like, everything was, there just wasn't enough supply for the amount of money.
The fucking art blocks.
Yeah.
Art
Oh
blocks.
man.
I still feel, though, like, no matter how crazy the market gets, nothing to me compares to like the January Top Shot euphoria. Like, seeing my like Bradley Beal S1 go from like $2 to like 300.
Oh yeah,
I was like, what?
Well, so that was my whole strategy with Top Shot, is I was buying these base moments for $1 a piece, and I was buying 50 of them, 100 of them. I would do it so much that I would crash their servers because I would be sending too many API calls. And so I was buying I bought, at one point I had like 150 Joel Embiid Series 1 debuts. And I think my cost basis for it was like, for all 150 was maybe $300.
Wow. Those were 1,500 plus at a point.
Yeah. Yeah. And this fucking idiot still has like 75 of them.
Get double from here.
It was crazy too, because I remember I specifically remember being home for winter break my freshman year in like December. And it was like peak cool. Remember the Cool Cat set?
Dude, everyone was so fucking mad in the Discord.
Oh, that was brutal.
People were furious.
I still haven't got over how much they fumbled that, but
yeah,
I just remember like being in my living room. It's like 9 p.m. at night, and like the family event is like me, my mom, my dad, and my brother are like on the Top Shot server just refreshing to buy a pack. And it's like, yeah, this $9 pack is actually guaranteed to give you a moment worth 200. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That's a family bonding experience.
It was.
Just everybody trying to win a raffle. And just the group tilt when no one gets a pack.
Yeah, they were, like, at one point they had like 300,000 people lining up in line to buy these packs. And I mean, I don't know how many line up now.
I mean, I would go, if I could go to the convenience store and know that I was going to win 50x my money, like, I'd be lining up all day. No. If we have a line around the whole city. Like, it was wild.
Yeah, I think hindsight's 2020 with all this shit. Like, Top Shot had a lot of issues, but like, I really wish that they had just been like, yeah, you know what, packs are kind of like a free money machine, and it's going to stay really rare, and like, that's fine. People are going to be fucking, like, I think the issue they had is people were really, really fucking mad when they weren't getting packs. People were furious, sending Roham death threats, like, what the fuck? And they should have just been like how Supreme and, you know, Off-White and Nike, and it's like, sucks.
Get a pack.
Yeah, maybe next time.
It's part of the game.
They've been like Farouk playing Broke Boy.
Yeah.
Get a pack.
Cue the Farouk music.
It's just like one of those things where they gave in to the customer maybe isn't always right.
No, customers are pretty dumb most of the time, honestly.
Like, you got to provide the experience, curate the experience, and then see what they react, and not just like be reactive to the first order thinking that they're putting out. Meaning like, I want packs. Okay, well, we'll just flood the market with packs. Like, okay, if you flood the market with packs, then how are your existing collectors going to feel? How are other people going to feel? Like, maybe you'll make some people happy, but I don't know.
Would you say that...
I think the writing was on the wall. Like, people were warning them, like look what happened to CryptoKitties. Like, look what happened to other things where there's oversupply. Like, please don't do this. Like, I feel like a lot of the bigger collectors, bigger names were pretty aware of what could happen.
Yeah.
And told them the risks of what could happen, and they still just fumbled it.
And that was why I would only buy, with exception, I would basically only buy Top Shot debuts. Because I was like, there can only be one Top Shot debut for a particular player. And so, like, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do, but this is somewhat protecting against that.
If it works, this is the play. Would you say that Top Shot was, like, one of, if not the biggest onboarding moment for NFTs?
I think my unpopular opinion is Top Shot, and, like, that period of time is still the most important thing that ever happened to NFTs.
No, and ever since then, that onboarded a bunch of people into Bored Apes, a bunch of people into Punks, a bunch of people... Well, I should have said Punks first, because they all joined Punks, and then a few months later minted Bored Apes, a lot of people. And then right around that time, maybe not as impactful, but pretty impactful, was Clubhouse, and all the people who were getting introduced NFTs through a voice app on an iPhone who had never touched the technology before. So you had like these two forces just driving a bunch of adoption. And we got big too big too fast.
Yeah, I think Top Shot brought in a lot of the buyers. Not a lot of artists or creators. I think that was mostly Clubhouse, but
collectors.
But the amount of like I don't know. It's like it's not that hard to like fucking put it all together. But you talk to guys like Bales and Jennings and Haralabob and all these guys, and they're like they were doing poker, and then they were doing sports betting, and then they were doing DFS, and then they were like, hey, this NFT thing seems like maybe another good thing to do. And before that, they were doing Bitcoin, and like. They're just going to want to find edge wherever it is and try to exploit that edge and make money. And like those types of people have, for the most part, been a lot of the volume in NFTs in general. And so like it just onboarded up. Like there were already a bunch of people who were doing that already in Punk's Discord and stuff prior to that. But this brought in a lot more money of very, very like-minded people who were previously doing sneakers and sports and all of that.
Yeah, like the social proof of it was just like, whoa. Jennings and Bales split a John Morant. Like, those are like two of the biggest.
I remember I think it was Jack Settleman bought a Zion or a Ja for like.
He bought the LeBron.
50 grand, was it 50,000?
Yeah, he bought the LeBron jersey number, the Kobe tribute jersey for $50K.
I remember when I saw that, I was like,
well, so that whole day, that was really funny because he bought the jersey number and then I bought the number 1.
Okay,
and
which went for more.
So the number 1 for more because I was going to buy it anyways. I had been like, because for the most part, my entire strategy, for the most part, that was good, was just buying really, really cheap moments. Because I was like, there isn't enough supply of these things. If there's ever actual demand, like they're worth way more than $1 a piece. And so like who the player is pretty irrelevant. But like the LeBron Kobe tribute dunk to me is like the best moment on the site. And so I was like, I kind of want to get a rare one. Like Top Shot's treated me well. I want a rare one. And I had been talking to the number 1 owner for a little bit, being like, he worked for Dapper Labs.
Really?
Yeah, and so it was like I wanted him to do it off-site, and he was like, no, I really want it to be on the platform. And I was like, I kind of want to like move in the shadows here a little. Like I don't want to be signaling everyone like, hey, buy more shit, because like I'm still doing pretty well here. I'd like to keep accumulating. And then Jack comes out that day and buys the number 23 for $50K. And I literally had the page open on my computer, and I had bought a new laptop for work. And I had gone and like I was waiting in line at the Mac store, or the Apple store, to like pick up my computer and come back. And in that time, the guy delisted it and relisted it for $70K, and it was originally $50K. And then when that happened, I was like, fuck it, I'm not letting someone else buy this. Like I'm buying it right now. I don't care. And I like transferred the money in.
Classic.
But, yeah, that was really funny. And then like Jack went on Pete Overzet's show and like talked about it, and that was how I met him and Jennings and all those guys. I just like DM'd Pete afterwards, and I was like, hey, I saw you had Jack on. Like I bought the other moment from this. Like if you ever want to talk about it, like let me know. Yeah, it's funny. Is
that how Club Top Shot was born?
Yeah.
Damn.
The first couple Club Top Shots I was not on, because it was I think the first one ever was Jack and Pete Overzet and Jennings and Jeremy Levine. And Jeremy's a fucking character. I love Jeremy. And then they had another one, and I had watched both of those, and I was like, this is pretty fun. I was like, I'd go on and talk about it. Like, I'm one of the larger spenders of this site. It's like, if you guys want to talk, like, let me know.
I don't know if you guys looked at the leaderboards. Andy 805 is pretty high up there. You guys want to talk?
Yeah. It was really, really funny. It was fun, but I actually think I think it's been very great for just like relationships and connections and all of that. But we talked about this recently on one of the episodes, and I was saying like, if we hadn't been doing Club Top Shot, I would have sold a lot more Top Shots then. But it felt really disingenuous to be going on a show every week where we're opening packs and talking about it. Because like at the time I was having a ton of fun, but also like I really should have been selling more.
That was like, yeah, incredible.
And so it was one of those things where like, obviously hindsight's 2020. Who knows what I
feel your pain though. I have the same problem with Twitter Spaces and selling bags. Like I'm talking to founders of projects, and you know, we like the cats, we like the apes, we like the whatever, and then next thing you know, it's like I paid 0.2 ETH for this cat, and now it's 15 ETH, and there's a token coming out. Like, I just got to sell a couple, and like there's other things that came out, and then people are like mad at you, like you fucking talked about them and pumped them, and it's kind of a problem because at the end of the day, you want to be genuine in your actions. Like I genuinely love Klon. I genuinely like Pablo Stanley from Robotos. I genuinely like Doob and Derb from Wicked Craniums. I genuinely like Dada and Bearsnake from Wizards. Like I genuinely like all these founders who we've talked to on Spaces and supported. But like we also, you know, have to take into account 3 years ago, I basically turned everything I have from 2 ETH. And it's like you have to sell shit.
That's insane.
And you have to realize gains, and you have to reallocate. And you can still genuinely like things, be fans of things, while not keeping the same financial exposure you had when you talked about it before. And it's a really tough thing like we have to deal with, where we're younger and never really had this money and don't know how to always act, and we're trying to put our best foot forward, treat other people how we're trying to be treated and genuine. But then it's like you get all this shit when you sell things, and it just sucks.
That's been one of the hardest things for me to learn is like, one, taking profit. I suck at it. And, you know, next cycle we do a little better. But since growing a platform and like gaining influence, figuring out like how I can talk about things I like, take profit, and still do it in a genuine way that doesn't, you know, come off pumpy, come off as shilly, scammy, whatever, to the following. Like that's new to me, and that's like a tough sort of dynamic to make sense of.
Yeah, and how do you, like taking it one step further, like with doing stuff with Jenkins and all of that, like how do you think about like how you want to promote, like how does it affect in any way the way you promote like the project itself and all of that? Like how do you think about balancing those things? Like we don't totally have to deal with that. Like I don't have a PFP project that I'm, you know, supporting or trying to like build stuff around, but I'm sure that's challenging.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for one, my thing, like the whole way up growing my account was no promos. And I didn't advertise anyone, didn't affiliate myself with anyone, no projects, no anything, because I wanted to stay as pure as possible. The Jenkins opportunity came, and that was one I was happy about. Projects that I fucking wrote a thread about Jenkins the Valet in October of 21. The floor was like 0.01. Like I was a community member first and foremost, a project I believed in and liked. So when I got that opportunity, for me, it was like be very public about what this is. Like I'm on the team, I'm part of it, I'm full time, and then talk about it how I want. But I feel like I've always kept the focus of not becoming a shill account, because I feel like even if you know that it's, you know, technically paid promo, you're part of the team, nobody wants a shill account. No one wants to read that in their feed all day. So that's been an interesting dynamic to just figure out how to balance that, how to promote it, and talk about a project I work for, but also believe in without, you know, kind of losing the authenticity of my account. And for everything else, like, honestly, I just don't tweet about my bags that much, which I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Like I used to love writing a good thread about a project I liked, a project I found, whether I held it or not, and just talking about it. But now I almost feel like I couldn't do that if I wanted to, which is sort of a weird feeling.
Yeah, it almost just feels like it's not worth it. It's like, yeah, it's fun, it's cool, it's nice to connect with people, but like you can kind of do that in private, and like the potential Farouk style backlash is just like, it's not fucking worth it.
It's like what's the best case scenario?
Yeah, maybe this is worth 1 ETH more or something. Like,
yeah, it goes up and, you know, you're a pump and dumper. It goes down and you suck at alpha. So it's like,
yeah, I've like been pretty actively selling a lot with the intention of moving most of my NFT collecting to anonymous accounts, just because like even with I don't really tweet about the NFTs that I own, but even then, like when I sell something, people will DM me and be like, "Why did you sell that?" I'm like, I don't want to fucking talk to the crazy. I sold it because I wanted to sell it, and so
why didn't you buy it?
Yeah. Why don't you buy this? Why
if you thought it was so valuable, like,
why did you sweep? Yeah,
I love that. Like when people are asking me why I sold things, I'm just like,
so
I had to go.
This is your first bear market in crypto, I'm assuming.
Yep.
How's it been so far? Is it? I guess. How's it been so far? And then also, is it what you expected from like how people would talk about it, or is it different, or what's it been like?
Yeah, so I'll say like in the up only euphoria bull run, like everybody talks about this can't go on forever. It makes sense that it can't go on forever. A bear market is coming. It's going to be brutal, and there's no way around it. And like in the back of my head, like I understood that. I get it. Like, okay, of course, right? Bear market, it has to come. Like, yeah, you know, your bags can really drop 99% in a day. Like, yeah, but until you see it, it's like, you know, but you don't really know until you know. It's humbling.
Yeah, I think it's almost like this is going to sound very dramatic, but it's like I think it's Mike Tyson who's like, everyone's tough till you get punched in the mouth. It's like, you know, very different type of punch in the mouth, but like when you look at your
but a punch nonetheless.
Yeah, but when you look at your Bored Ape worth $500,000 and you're like, I'm not fucking selling. I don't care. I know
it's going to $1 million.
Yeah, it's like it's going to $1 million. It's like, oh, okay, well now it's worth $50,000. How do you feel? How do you feel about it now?
And just the being able to like wake up, you know, degen on some fucking derivative mint and just like spawn $1,000 out of thin air. And just like knowing you can't do that anymore. It's humbling.
No, we just did Crypto Burbs.
Dude,
shout out.
I missed that.
It was Thanksgiving. We're vibing. This thing comes out. It's like $8 a piece. Mint some. Wake up the next day. They're at 0.25 ETH.
What's the floor at now?
Probably, I don't know.
Bear market is definitely down. I'm going to check. Keep talking.
Down, horrendous.
But it's one of those things where like there are opportunities. Like people check out. People check out right now. People are like, no, there's nothing. It's like there are shit. Like it's less often and it's less upside. Like we're not gonna do maybe something going from 0 to 5 or 10 ETH. But like if I can mint something for under $50 and it goes to something over $250, that's still over a 5x, and I'm still stoked to like gamble.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like this space, like I like to gamble. So when there's still options to gamble, it's like, you know, maybe take a smaller bet size, but you can still like, there's still upside.
Floor's 0.12.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
I only tweeted about it once.
There
you go. Yeah.
But what I'll say is like pretty quickly, you know, you kind of get over, all right, we're in a bear market. It's here. You have two options, right? Is you leave or you double down. And I feel like I've been able to pretty quickly see the glass half full, optimistic side of things, where it's like, you know, when I joined the space in 21, it's like you look at who are the top dogs, like who really knows what they're doing, who do people look up to, like who is, you know, made it. And it's all the 2017 people that lived through the cycle, didn't leave, stayed, and doubled down. And I'm seeing it now. It's like so many people have left, and so many people that had legitimate spots in the space were big names, people I looked up to, and like they're just gone. And thinking about it selfishly, like from the content creation spaces, like brand building side of things, the opportunity is crazy to like plant your flag in this bear market. I mean, it's slow, it's dead, the growth isn't the same. Definitely can be a little demoralizing. But the opportunity, if you can just live to see tomorrow, I feel like is insane. And that's kind of what I'm banking on.
Yeah, and I mean, you just like, you see that with everything like from 2017 and all that. It's like, if you continue to stay curious and interested and just really like challenge yourself to continue to stay on top of things, even though it might not be as exciting, it might not be as profitable as it was 2 years ago, like at some point it'll pay off. Either it'll like, and to me, it's like such an asymmetric bet where it's like either it'll pay off or crypto actually goes to zero and you wasted a couple of years and you have like some really fucking funny stories in the future.
And I'm still like, even if everything we had went to zero right now, I'm 100x better off than I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, So
and the podcasts are recorded forever.
Yeah. People can go back and be like, look at these dumbasses in this nice house in Miami. Like, now they're fucking homeless all out on Skid Row in LA. And, like, this is what they could have had. But no, I think, like, something that I really liked about you is just, like, how honest and authentic you are. That was kind of what I was so proud to see. Like, the second director of Vibes is, like, somebody who reminded me of myself. And I just was like, wow, like, are other people that take this title going to do the same? Like, it was like a good, like, I don't know. But what you said about explaining the title, I feel your pain.
Bro,
like,
what's the answer? Like, what's the right answer?
So the answer is, it's something along the lines of, I do a mixture of community management, partnerships, like investor community, like collector, creator relations. You're kind of like a glue guy. You vibe check. Like, you're also a product user of the platform. You tell your team, like, hey, this is not something we think people want, or like, hey, this might need tweaked or something. Like, you gotta be honest, and you have to be a user of your own.
'Cause you're a target audience at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm also like somebody who might collect rays, but I'm also somebody who might want to vault stuff. So it's like, I'm somebody who can kind of try to look through both and give my unbiased opinion. And I try to be as honest as I can be and just say, like, I think that's cool, or like, I don't think people will care. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, the director of Vibes is just a way to encompass that, because there's no other title that kind of encompasses all these things. Like, I was like the 4th or 5th employee at our company.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, you gotta do a bunch of stuff. Like, no one fucks with Discord, you gotta do that. No one really fucks with Twitter, you gotta do that.
Spaces.
You gotta talk to other collectors, get some vault communications, like, manage expectations and stuff. Spaces, huge thing. And it's like, there's really not a word that summarizes that.
Did you pick the title?
Yeah. It was kind of like, I think I just said, like, what about director of Vibes? Like, what, does this make sense?
Yeah, and I fucking hate titles at companies, so I was like, yeah, 100% sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, thinking through, like, the more day-to-day stuff currently, like, what does that more actively look like for Jenkins? Are you, like, doing research for the PFP stuff that you guys are doing? Are you spending more time in, like, Discord? And I know you guys just announced, like, your own podcast and stuff like that. What do you find yourself focusing on a lot right now? What's exciting?
There's not a lot of time in Discord.
I think what I want to push for next cycle is everyone deletes their Discords.
Please.
Yeah.
I would feel liberated. I spend too much time in there. I'm like, it's still in the chats, making sure.
It's not needed anymore. I don't feel. No. It's a silo within an echo chamber, and it just doesn't. I would say a lot of community building, a lot of partnerships for the podcast specifically, which is pretty cool. And one thing that was cool about, like, doing partnerships is, I remember when I first joined the space, first started tweeting, I put a lot of, like, pressure on myself and stressed myself out, because I was like, I feel like I'm doing a lot on Twitter, but I'm not networking well enough. I'm not making connections well enough. And what I realized through outreach and through trying to, get on the phone with people, is all it is literally you reply guy to someone 3 times, they follow you back, you have one interaction, and then when you send a DM, you get an answer. And that was pretty cool to see. But a lot of community building stuff. And I think one of the coolest parts about the job, and one of the reasons I like our setup so much, is a big focus on just, like, yo, go build your brand, like, go host your daily spaces, like, go tweet 100 times, like, do whatever you can to just be out there on Twitter and do what you do. So it allows a lot of flexibility, which is, to me, my favorite part.
I echo that. I mean, that was kind of what happened with my role. When I started, I had less than 10,000 followers on Deezefi.
Wow.
And
when was that?
The begining of July.
Yeah, July 2021-ish.
And then they were just like, what do you feel like is best? Like, what do you think you should be doing? I'm like, spaces are working. Like, we just started hosting a bunch of these, and, like, people like them, and I'm really enjoying hosting a bunch. And then, like, now it's 240,000 followers, and it's just like,
insane. That
was through having all that flexibility. It's like, I'm still in Discord, in meetings when needed, but it's also like, I genuinely enjoy the Twitter treadmill. I call it a treadmill, because it's you're playing, like, notification whack-a-mole, and it's like a video game on Twitter. Like,
which is the best and worst part at times.
it's really hard to like check out of the treadmill. Like you feel this nagging like urge in the back of your head. Like right now, like our phones are on the table, and it's like I know when this is over, I'm gonna have to spend like 5 minutes to just comprehend everything, all the whack-a-moles that I need to whack. And it's like that's constant, but I enjoy it. Like I would rather do that and keep building connections with people than a lot of other things. And like I don't think a lot of people actually enjoy it. Like I don't know.
It's an advantage if you do, but I gotta say, you are OG Twitter Spaces host.
Back when they started,
like the OG.
Back when they started, dude. It was just I was getting in my friend's space because he was driving home every day for an hour. We were talking about nothing. It was basically like a Lindy walk. And then one day I was like, man, why am I not hosting him? Like I want to talk, but like he's not in the car right now. So I just like went on a walk, hosted it. I don't know how many people showed up. Like it was one of those things where like you like message Sneaker Dad or you message Sobe or you message like one other person. Hey, you want to talk right now in like public? Hop on space. Boom, you have an audience. Like sometimes you might only have some people trickle in, but like you can still have a conversation and build it.
Yeah. Twitter Spaces are so interesting to me. I'm really curious to see how they evolve over the next little bit. I feel like, you know, there's been some weird shit with Twitter Spaces too now over the last couple months. It's like
the current meta is very weird.
Yeah. But at the same time, you see really cool shit like Rug Radio. Shout out to Rug Radio, friends of the podcast, where like they're using it to create this like next version of what like radio looks like. And I think it's like really fucking cool. But at the same time, it's like on the same platform where there's like clearly botted fake
we have
news,
albino
Spaces.
punks with do-rag bringing on the biggest
talking to our favorite curly haired pod,
the biggest and brightest
grifters
people in the space. And like there's all this deception, like you said, the botting, whether it's retweet bots, viewer bots, whatever.
It's in a weird place.
Yeah, it is.
At the same time though, I feel Twitter Spaces, it's going to be huge. Like it feels like the kind of an obvious, like we talk about it on the GN show. We were talking about Twitch and how it's literally a platform to watch people play video games, and the most viewed category is just chatting. And now what they're doing in that is up for debate.
There's actually a hot tub up on the roof. Do you want to go?
We have a hot tub right there. We
can bubble bath. Yeah, we can get in there. But the fact that people just like want to hear entertaining people talk. Like I look at Spaces and it feels like it's one screen share away from like really blowing up. Like it's missing something. It's missing a chat. It's missing something to engage the audience outside of like sending one of two emojis.
It doesn't have the Twitch chat appeal. Like there aren't people in that thread thing just doing like a Twitch chat. Like I don't know. I would like that energy of just people, because you don't ever as a host see more than like 16 reactions because you're never going down. Like I'm never scrolling down and being like, oh, who's throwing up emojis? But like if there was a chat where people, because people aren't using that thread because it's public.
Exactly.
It's not ephemeral like the space.
Exactly.
Like if they just had a chat, I don't know. There's certain things.
Do you think that the like, I don't know. I never really used or fuck with Clubhouse, so I don't really know anything about it. Like I don't know if it's still doing well. I would imagine it's not, but like I don't know. Do you think that Twitter Spaces are like uniquely successful because of Twitter, and so like people see them and join them because they're already on Twitter and they look up top and they go, oh, Threadguy and Deeze are talking, let me see? Or do you think like if Twitter Spaces were a separate app, would people still give a shit?
No. It's the you have the network effect of, hey, I built this audience on this app that's existed for like over a dozen years, and now I can distribute this more ephemeral live content with that same audience in the same app. And it's, you know, right now the way that the Spaces are displayed is fucking terrible. I don't know why it's a giant purple bar with no text, but like it was better when it was just little circles.
How do they make it worse?
Because the little circles, like if you just, in my head, what you should see are the people you follow who have the most followers, and then it should just be their circles in the Spaces. So like if you follow me or Threadguy or you and we're in a space, it's just going to have our profile picture as a circle, and then it's just a bunch of them. Like I need to see depth without scrolling. Yeah. I'm not going to scroll and wait. Like the way it's designed, you gotta
click on everyone and see who's in there.
Yeah, if you could just see like, oh, Threadguy's in one, Deeze is in one, like, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see I've been like fucking around with Farcaster a bit and some of these other.
How is that?
It's fine. It's Twitter, but with Web3 stuff.
You have a wallet?
Yeah, it's.
Is it worth joining?
Yes.
I would say so, yes. I think the experience on the app is my favorite Twitter competitor-esque experience. I mean, I really like the team who are doing it. You link your wallet, and then you can, with your other like NFT wallets and stuff, sign a message to connect it to like your Farcaster wallet. And so then like you have all of your NFTs as a tab. People can see your NFTs.
That's
you
cool.
can set it as your PFP like super natively. Like I never fucking set my Twitter PFP because they're all in a ledger and it's a pain in the ass. And so it's not worth it. But like on Farcaster, it's easy. Like it's easier than setting a random PFP to just use one of your NFTs. And so that's really nice. But what I was going to say is I'd be really curious to see a Twitter competitor try to start with Twitter Spaces as like this, like, I feel like Clubhouse could have tried to go from being Clubhouse to being Twitter in its current situation where like the Twitter Spaces are really, really good. And like, you know, all these issues. Yeah, you basically vampire from the opposite way of saying like, fuck the posting on the timeline part. We're going to be a better platform for Twitter Spaces, but you also have a profile that people can follow. And you can post on that timeline and like build it out that way. I don't know if it would work. It'd be interesting though.
It'd be interesting.
I've done a Reddit. I think it's Reddit Talks.
Yes.
Wait, really?
It has like when the Reddit avatars were going crazy, and I thought I was gonna have to start posting on Reddit. I was blown about it. I was like, I do not want to start writing threads again on Reddit when the avatars are going crazy. But I did a Reddit Talk. It's Spaces, but you can have like 35 people on stage.
Oh wow, that's too many.
Way too many. But it was cool. I mean, it's literally the same thing. So. It is what it is.
I wonder what the next thing for, I guess there's two people who spend a lot more time on Twitter than the average person. I mean, I do too, but I'm not in Twitter Spaces as much. Because Allie would fucking kill me if I was just talking. Every once in a while, it'll be like 9:30 at night, and she'd be like, "Andy, what the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm listening to Deeze talk on a Twitter Space."
We had you on the one time.
Yeah. She was like, "What are you sitting in there for?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just on a Twitter Space." She's like,
hell
"Why?
are you
Go to
talking
bed."
to?
Yeah, literally. But I wonder, like, what do you guys think, or what would you want to see from a platform like Twitter as a new way or new thing to like engage with your followers or like a community?
Yeah, I mean, the chat and the
a huge
sharing
one for me.
is big. Like, I really feel like right now the algorithm isn't in a great spot.
What happened to the algorithm?
Isn't it,
bro?
Like, if you just go by the home and not the latest tweets, like, number one, I have a problem with latest tweets because I follow like 5,100 people now. So I cannot see
anything relevant.
Everything. Like, and there's no curation. So I have lists. Like, the way I've been able to do it is I have a list of like NFT people, which is like maybe 600, 700 people. I have that in its own column. And then I have another list of just artists I collect from, which is like 100 people. And I don't get enough signal from those. Like, I look through them, but it's still like too much signal. So then the algorithm just feeds me garbage on home. Like,
somebody liked a tweet from like rap and it's on there. The NBA's on.
Yeah, Allie's been complaining to me. I only ever use latest, and so I don't ever see it. But she's like, yeah, basically all I see now on Twitter is just tweets with like 100,000 likes of people I'm not following.
And it's good in the sense that like it works because I click on it and I'm interested, but then I'm like, wait, I'm not on crypto Twitter to read about the Knicks.
Like, to read about the Knicks.
I'm just not. You know what I mean? That part is brutal, and you're right. Like, lists is the alpha, but lists are hard too because
you have to curate the list, and then you have to keep it up. So it's like, I don't have a bot that looks at my 3 main wallets and says, "Oh, if I bought an NFT from this artist, follow them on Twitter and add to this list." Like, I have to make sure that after I follow them, they're added to the list, and I'm really bad. I think anyone who knows me knows I'm not super organized. I'm a very type B person, and just like, my organization skills aren't there. So what I end up doing is like once a month, oh, fuck, what did I do? Add some people, forget about it for a month, and then it's tough. There's no like automated way to just have it. I do like what Farcaster's doing with the wallet integration. Like, I want more Web3 things. Another benefit of Farcaster is like kind of open. Like, other people can build front ends that use Farcaster. Like, right now I feel like you're kind of limited with Twitter to use Twitter. I use an extension called Black Magic to kind of track my interactions.
I have a Black Magic account. I don't use it though.
Oh, I
haven't been able to get into it. I tried it when you recommend. I don't know.
I think like when you get to a point where your life is Twitter, then you're just like, fuck it. Like, let me figure out this tool. Mm-hmm. And TweetDeck is the other one. But like, without those two tools, I'd be pretty hurting because the just generic Twitter.com experience or the phone app experience doesn't cut it.
How do you feel when you remove someone from the main list? It's like an alpha breakup.
I honestly can't remember the last time I removed someone
really?
from the list. I will say I cleansed them over the summer of just projects. Like I was like, any project that's like dead.
I don't want the projects on there yet.
Off the
They
list.
retweet too much stuff.
I don't even follow projects on Twitter. If I do and I see they tweet something, I'll unfollow them. Like, and it's nothing against any particular project. It's like I just if you have some important announcement, I'm gonna fucking see about it anyways. Yeah. I don't need to see all your random tweets about like a event that you have.
I feel like in the way that like Discord is kind of becoming last year, no one really cares. Feels like project accounts are sort of following that, where it's like you follow the founder, and if there's something important, the founder is going to let you know, and like the actual project account is like people don't really care. At least that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean that's like with D-Gods. Like everyone just cares about Frank's tweeting. They don't care.
Yeah, I don't even follow D-Gods.
Like, I mean, even with like our own stuff, like Tessera and We Do A Little Pod. We Do a Little Pod. We just made the account like 2 months ago or something, but it's like 3,000 followers. Like people know if we tweet about something about the pod, it's going to come from our accounts anyway. So it's like I try to post it on the pod account and then retweet it or quote tweet it from my account just to make sure that like people see it. But it's tricky because those definitely don't get the engagement that like tweeting from your own account gets. And then otherwise, like you have to embed all the media on Twitter to get engagement. You cannot link to like external media.
Can't link anything.
Dude, if you link in the tweet, it's like it gets like 10 likes. Like no one sees it. But if you just embed the clip of Sobi, it'll get over 5,000 views. Like, it's
just because it's Sobi.
Yeah, it's just because he's Sobi. It's like, oh, what's he saying? And it's a problem because then you're trying to, build and diversify your audience across different platforms, and you don't have a way to do it because the algorithm punishes every time you link to an external platform.
Which is a downfall.
And then, how do you think about, like, preparing in a world that, like, your Twitter account went away? Like, do you have, like...
Man, that's a good question. And one, I just keep putting it off. Because we saw...
It's like getting a hardware wallet.
It literally,
backing up your seed phrase with, like, a crypto steal.
And you don't really get it until you get hacked, right? Like, you don't really...
Until you get deplatformed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw it, like, a lot. It's been happening to a lot of people. And it's scary. Like, I'm only on Twitter, really. I mean,
I feel your pain.
I have like 100 followers on Twitch, and like that's it. And it's like I really want to diversify off. It's hard because it's like where, right? Like where are you going to diversify off?
You got a TikTok?
And, yeah, like
got the haircut for it, dude.
Yeah, dude, you crush on TikTok.
And like for what content? I'll say like one of my thoughts with diversifying platforms. How am I going to do it? IRL content, I feel like, is a big one, and that's one of my goals with Basil. Is like I want to leave here with like 4 or 5 videos, whatever, even if they're on Twitter, like just diversifying my content in a sense. One reason I started doing spaces is because it's like you can only send so many tweets. You know what I mean? At a certain point,
yeah,
like,
shit posting is hard. People don't understand. Like
it's hard.
Yeah, it's not easy to.
And there's like
these thoughts don't come from anywhere.
I gotta give you your flowers. I feel like you have like mastered the ratio between like professional smart tweets and just like banger niche shit posts.
95% to 5%.
Yeah,
is the ratio.
I gotta make sure people know. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, "This is a serious tweet. I have some things to say," and then I'll be drunk and tweet, "It's illegal to own a bored ape." And it's a back and forth.
You have like the FUBAR ratio, which I love. Yeah.
Dude, FUBAR, I really appreciate how much he's grown over the last like year and a half as a shit poster. He's gotten so good. He like for a while was just like tweeting normal things and it was so boring. But like that was one of the funny things too. Like I realized is for a long time, like when I first started gaining followers on Twitter, it was DeFi summer in 2020. And so since I'm a smart contract developer, every time a new like yield farm would come out or some stupid degenerate shit, I would audit the contracts real quick and post up like, hey, this is the contract. I checked it out, compared it to this contract that it was a fork of. It looks like it's safe. I feel good about it, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that was how I like very slowly started to gain followers. And then like Top Shot kind of changed a lot of stuff there.
I knew Andy that summer because we were in a group chat and we had ape commandments. And we just had to follow the 8 commandments. This was basically risk management 101. And it was just reminding yourself that, like, all this stuff is a rug. Like, I remember searching. We'd go into the contract and, like, search for words. Like, I remember, like mint or something. Like, and then we would post it, screenshot in the chat, and then like 2 of the 50 people had a brain, and everybody else just wanted to ape. And we're just waiting for like the Andy to be
the one smart guy to confirm.
Like, we're not going to lose all our money we put in. All right. And then immediately we're just shoving, like, as a group, 25, 50 ETH into a pile of shit.
That was the best. I remember. I was working at MakerDAO at the time.
Okay.
And so we had all of the smart contract devs from MakerDAO in a Signal chat, and we would just be firing shit off every time someone posts some new thing, and like, so it was kind of crazy. So when Yams came out, which this is like early DeFi summer.
Yep.
This was like August 2020.
Jeez.
And so like Yams was fucking crazy. People don't know about it, like especially the NFT people, they don't know about it. Like it was totally insane. It was kind of like a first of its time thing where you would deposit your different DeFi tokens and you would earn Yams. And that was it. There was no like liquidity pool or anything. It was just, deposit your MakerDAO, earn Yam tokens. And like no one really knew if it was safe. So that's the thing is like, since no one really knew if it was safe or like what the fuck was going on, they were like very cautious at first. Well, like now everyone just apes in like crazy.
Yeah.
But everyone was very cautious. They were like, I don't really know. Even I took some time before I put my money into it because I was like, I don't want to put my money into this thing.
What's it?
But
are we eating these?
my old boss at Maker, he had helped audit the contracts. He knew the people who made it, and he did very well for himself. And one day we're on a work call and we're talking about all the Yams shit, and there was like a bug in the code and all this stuff, and he was like, yeah, I accidentally made like a lot of money on Yams last night, and he retired like a few weeks later.
Holy shit.
Yeah. He's never worked in the space again.
Wow.
It was like, but it was like fucking crazy time. Like, it's hard to even explain. I think it was even more ridiculous than like the 10K PFP mint phase, because like it wasn't just that you were paying $500 to like mint something. People were putting millions of dollars into this
way
stuff.
Less market participants and more capital. Like the average capital per market participant that was going into this
probably
shit was
6
ridiculous.
figures,
and it was all on chain. So you're just watching like wallets that have over $10 million just ape into shit.
I would just watch Machi Big Brother, whatever he was putting his money into.
You're sitting there and you're like, wow, this wallet put 50 million, 100 million into the smart contract. Like, okay, my net worth's 10 grand. I can probably put like $500.
Yeah, it was totally crazy. And then you're like, oh, actually, it was a rug. We just got lucky. Like, it was
we just got out fast enough.
Yeah, no, literally. Like, it was.
You're like, we're all fucking gamblers. Like, wait, they don't know shit. They just have a lot of money.
Yeah, it was totally insane. It was a really fun time, but very, very different time of crypto Twitter.
It was a time where like I've never seen Gwei that high. Even though now like ETH was really high, so gas felt more expensive in dollars. The amount of ETH I burnt that summer because Gwei was 300, 400 for the summer. Like when sushi came out, that was hell. It was $500 to like harvest my sushi,
and you literally couldn't sleep because you put your shit into this stuff, and you're like,
"Is it gonna get rug?
Yeah, is it rug? I don't know."
Taking a 3-hour power nap while people are taking.
I'd be setting alarms for like fucking 3 a.m. to wake up
just to make sure. Yeah, that's
and like
brutal.
Oh man, it was like
Asia's up. We're getting fucking rugged.
Yeah,
it's over.
It was like literally. I remember like fucking kimchi. I woke up at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning to make sure. But like at the same time, like that literally exact same farm, I'm on a call for work and I like harvested my kimchi and I was like, holy shit, guys, I just made like more than my monthly salary just sitting here for like kimchi? 10 minutes right now. Like this is totally insane. It was a really weird time.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
It was like all the coins were memes. Like everything was food or like I flipped a coin that was called neat and I flipped a coin that was called like tard. Like just straight
anything.
The dumbest things. Everybody was flipping. And
it sounds was like the NFT space. Yeah.
But like But at the time, like you had to understand Uniswap, which a lot of people in NFTs still don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of had to understand like how all this works. And
you had to be a pretty like educated market participant. You couldn't. Cool. It wouldn't have worked for the same people who were minting Bored Apes and Cool Cats and all of that. But yeah, that was a fun time. I think it'll be really interesting to see like whatever the next thing is. Because that's one of the things that like I think about a lot is like we've never really had 2 cycles in crypto where the same thing like really heavily pumped twice, and so that's why like I'm somewhat wary about PFP projects and all these different things.
Right.
In a lot of ways where it's like, who are the new people who are going to come in a year and be like, you know what? I really wish I had that doodle. Like, and so, you like those Doodles is just a random company.
Yeah, I really wish I could play putt-putt this weekend.
Yeah. Fuck, I missed the putt-putt in my head. And like that, all that kind of shit is cool. But like you have all these projects have this like period of time to legitimize this. And like I think Bored Apes have to a certain extent. And like Punks obviously is fine. And I think like Art Blocks, a lot of Art Block stuff will be okay. Some of it won't be. And like, I'm curious to see what like kind of the next thing is. I don't really know.
Do you think NFTs lead the next cycle?
I don't think so.
Really?
At least not NFTs in the way that we see them right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of like when thinking more about how every cycle is different or has a different catalyst, really what the catalyst generally is some way that some new thing that people don't totally understand. And so there's alpha there in people not totally understanding it. That is a way for capital to be like accrued. And so you saw it with like, obviously like Bitcoin kind of its own thing. And then you started seeing like the Bitcoin forks, and they were either like pre-mining a bit for the team or doing whatever. And then you had like the master nodes with like Dash and all of this shit. And that was like, people didn't really understand how they worked, but they were like making this theory in their head of like, okay, if I get a master node, I'll make this much money every month for the rest of my life and I'll be set for life. And then you had like ICOs, and people are like, at first everyone's really, really cautiously going into these ICOs because like, all right, why am I giving all this money to fucking Augur? Like, what is this thing? And then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, this is what's happening. Everyone's aping into these ICOs.
We're doing this now.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you had these ICOs that were raising $100 million and then immediately going to zero basically. And like, that's kind of like the end of every cycle. And then the next cycle, you ended up having all like the crypto yield farming stuff, which was basically how like all these like DeFi apps were getting like TVL and users, and then you had NFTs with minting a 10K PFP project. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I'm hard pressed to think that next cycle will just be a new wave of 10K PFP projects, because it's kind of like a solved game.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you mint the project, you flip a few before reveal.
Yeah.
If you really like it, you stick around, and like people know that now, and so you lose most of the edge. And so you're just not going to see that same like fucking insane up-only growth when there's not very much edge to be had. So I think it has to be something new. What it is, I don't really know.
I like that thought. I think you're right. Like, we've done the 10K. I mean, the 10K PFP meta felt played out like a month after I was in fucking NFTs.
Yeah.
Like, how many MFR derivatives can we really mint here, right? Like,
MFR toad pumps.
I know, like the tit badges though. We love the tit badges, but like I want to say, oh, it's gonna be like utility NFTs or like gaming assets or whatever. I'm not sure what utility NFTs even looks like.
Yeah. I could see it being gaming where like I could see a world where there's some like actually really good game that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Think of Pokemon Go when it came out.
Yeah.
Like something like that could come out that incorporates the technology.
That was stepping, man. You missed it.
Bro, I need to tax loss harvest some shoes.
Yeah,
anyone
needs some digital shoes
on virtual sneakers. Like, I could have bought a lot of these, and all I got are virtual sneakers.
Hey, honestly, nothing has brought the world together like the first 3 months of Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah.
Heaven on
so
earth.
fun.
Like, that was the closest glimpse of euphoria I've ever seen.
That was the closest we ever got to a utopia, 100%.
We haven't gotten anywhere near it.
I was fucking going for walks with my neighbors I didn't know.
I was more social and friendly to people during those 3 months than I was on Ohio State's campus. And, like, they had multiple lures, like double spots going. You'd have fucking 50 kids around Mirror Lake just vibing.
I was standing in Central Park, 700 people around a fucking statue. We're all fighting. Dude, Central Park was insane.
And it was like, the thing about it, which was crazy, was it wasn't just like the diehard Pokemon fan gamers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm playing the new Pokemon on the Switch. I'm a diehard. I love that shit.
Oh, yeah, same.
But it was like my mom, would download Pokemon Go so we could go on a walk. Like, what a crazy time. And I feel like that curiosity from like normies is the same feel that we want to recreate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think like to circle back a little bit to like whatever next cycle stuff, I think like anyone who really says they know is lying. Like they don't know. But to me, like the general theme or thing that I would be looking for is some new way, some new thing that people are doing that is like working, and that like will take time for people to understand and evolve, and then like eventually it'll become understood, and like I think you slowly have these things happen, and it's like a new development that drives a new cycle, and then you gain a little bit more adoption than you had last cycle. And so it's like, I think NFTs will still do well next cycle in the same way that I think DeFi coins or some of them will do well next cycle, but like not all of them, only the ones that have staying power for some reason. And like, we'll see. And probably like NFTs are such a low level primitive that it very well could be a particular type, like you were saying, utility or something else.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. Who the hell knows?
It feels like, for the most part, on the PFP side, 90+% of these projects that are like 1 ETH or below are all just slowly fading into irrelevancy, right? Like, what's the bull case for one of those? I struggle with.
Yeah. You need a founder who just like won't quit.
Thing. Like, why would you buy that when you can just mint something new with more upside?
It's hype and exciting.
Yeah, and it's like, we saw that with all those ICO tokens, and a lot of the tokens from 2017, 2018, they just didn't make it. Like, there are people who stored value in the wrong tokens and missed the bull run because they were
just waiting for their Chainlink bags to pump.
I mean,
holding XRP.
Chainlink pumped early. Like, if you were holding Link during the 2018 bear market and you held it through DeFi summer, you were fucking thrilled, but you actually had to sell it. Yeah. And then a lot of them
that's the problem.
Bought on to the fact that like, oh, all of crypto's pumping, Link will follow. And it's like, well, no, Link kind of led everything and now is just dying versus everything for the entire cycle.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be really, really interesting. And like, obviously I wish I fucking knew what was going to do well, but like, I think some stuff, like I think that punks and squiggles and stuff like that will probably not lead the next cycle, but they will be major beneficiaries of the next cycle.
Two biggest bags.
Yeah.
Punks and squiggles.
Hashtag ad.
Yeah. But yeah, hard to say outside of that stuff. I'm really curious to see. I think to a certain extent, it'll matter a lot how good or not good the other side stuff ends up being.
It's crazy how much of the future of the space rides on Yuga. Like, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
You should have sold your apes, bro.
Just given, like, the thought, you know, before apes came out or when they were minting out, it was just like, you know, never thought they would be in this position. Now they own punks. They're like the 1 and 2 biggest. Other side is like, I think the highest publicity event we've seen with just millions of dollars burnt in gas plus millions raised.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah, and I think it's funny too, like, I think a lot of the conversation around Yuga and apes in general is like, they've executed better than like any other team in NFTs. And it's like, really, they minted like 6 NFT projects and threw some really good parties and have like very, very good content and branding.
They were very good timing.
Yeah.
What like, if they came out right now?
Yeah, and like, obviously the guys are really smart and the team is smart and they're like,
they crushed it.
They still have done better, done a better job than like every other PFP project.
Yeah.
Even like, though maybe it's like they haven't actually, I'm sure internally they've done a lot of other shit that I don't even know about, but like externally looking at it, they haven't done it's not like it's Uniswap where they wrote some fucking insane protocol that like only 5 people in the world could write. It's like they made monkey pictures.
It's like, what does execute really mean?
Yeah,
at this stage, right? The bar is...
They delivered. And like a lot of people didn't.
But I think like there's also something to be said for like maybe what really matters in executing is doing like the bare minimum you need to do to like maintain brand and the content you need. Like maybe if they had done 2 times as much shit, it would have been way worse.
Yeah.
And like they were perfectly like executing on the stuff that they were putting out and then not oversaturating with more tweets and content. Like they're not even that active on socials really.
No, and timing was great. Mutants came out right during... I mean, I remember Mutant.
I remember you minting Mutants.
Your Mutant.
Yeah, because I was in the car.
Because you were out. Like,
it was Ali's brother's
birthday. It was Saturday night. We were in space.
Yeah.
And people weren't home, and they didn't have access to ETH. And I was like, I'll just mint them for you.
The branding side of Yuga is been one of the coolest things for me to watch.
Yeah.
It's just like, they're not very active. They don't really post that much. And it's like they have an army of influencers, large accounts, whatever, on crypto Twitter that advertise for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of them. Like, I never changed my PFP. And I remember when I got that mutant, I wrote a thread about mutant apes. The floor was like 3 back in the day. It exists. If you want to check it out, it exists. I promise.
We'll find it. We'll pull it up.
And it was like, the only reason I want this ape is for like the networking power. And after a month of having it, I was like, this could literally go to zero, and it was worth it.
Yeah.
Like, it was worth what I paid for it, because I felt like it held a lot more weight back then, because the only people that were like powerful, it felt like they were all apes, but it fucking held a lot of weight and was valuable.
Yeah, totally. I think it's one of the A16Z found. It might be Chris Dixon, who he has a really great like short form like essay about Web3 and marketing, and basically saying that like in the Web3 world, when you have these networks that are like community owned, like your community does the market, like the tokens are the marketing. And so it's like for Bored Apes, the best marketing that they can do is have a bunch of people who all have Bored Apes who fucking love Bored Apes, and like it markets itself. They don't have to have ads everywhere, because like people with Bored Apes will pay themselves to put ads up. It's such an interesting kind of like shift in dynamic where like they don't really have to be selling shit to you all the time. They just need the people who own their stuff to be bought in and excited about it to market it for them. And like they have all these people like yourself now who have built a platform where you have a lot of fucking people following you. And when they see your account, they see a Bored Ape, and you're now indirectly marketing for Bored Apes every time you do stuff.
And the NFTs are so interesting because it's like PFP becomes you online, right? Like the Deeze punk that's the Deeze punk, and you can change that PFP however many times you want. But like that's the brand. And I mean, we see now like project founders that have a whole PFP collection, maybe 5, and they still rock that Bored Ape PFP because it's like their identity. And that, just like seeing how deeply rooted the like network effects of the BAYC is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's very cool.
But that makes it hard to sell.
It makes it really hard. I mean, I'll tell you straight up, if you offered me, what was the mutant peak floor? Like 125, 150 maybe?
It was probably like what, 30 ETH?
30, 40, yeah. We'll call it 125.
Yeah.
If you offer me 125K for the mutant, probably more than my portfolio is worth, I would tell you to fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone bid 400 and some ETH when ETH was over $4,000 on my punk. It was over 1.5 million. I didn't accept it. I said, nah, you gotta go 10x.
I
would take 10 million.
If you got the Reichert offer, you would take it?
I would, at this point in time, depends on the price of ETH, but like right now, 10 million, you could get the punk, the ape, every derivative, and it's yours.
What about the mushroom down too? Little package?
Yeah, fuck it. If I still have the mushroom by the time someone hears this, the mushroom might be long gone. But no, I feel like it. I don't know. You're mutant. You're starting to dox though. Like you're starting to become mute. Like you're gonna be able to get off the mute.
And I want that. Like I don't want that to be like.
Can't be the mutant forever.
No, right? And even like Threadguy as like an online persona, like I want to show my face, like want people to know me as well. So like starting to sort of transition and make that disconnect, I think is.
When did you decide to do that? Like how did that process come up? Because you started off as Threadguy, you started out the mutant. Didn't, I don't think, like post videos of yourself.
No, I doxed at 10K.
Okay.
So I was like, I was on docs just because that's like the thing to do. And there's no real reason for me to like I kind of wasn't telling my friends or whatever. I was just like, I was anonymous and it was cool. But I knew like I wanted a platform and I want to meet people. Like I want to go to events. Like I don't want to just like sit behind the screen and the only time I talk to people is spaces, which are dope. But it's like, what are the connections really for if you can't, come to fucking Miami and do the pod at Deeze's spot? So it's like that. Like that's why we doxed. You know what I mean? And 10K was kind of an arbitrary number, but it felt that was my number.
Celebration.
That was always my number, and I was like, when I hit 10,000 followers, which felt like a million. I was like, when I hit 10K, that's when I proved to myself I can do this, like for real. And then we doxed at 10K.
No looking back.
No looking back. Really didn't post much. Like it was like a dox, and then I had a couple haircut videos that got
the haircut videos are classic.
Got some traction, but I want to lean into it more because I feel like that's one side of CT that you don't see much of is like the actual person behind the account, and it feels like people enjoy it. Like it's nice to put a face to like a persona that you've talked to daily for months.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess rolling off of that, like what do you think as you're building out the next kind of season of your online presence and persona? Are there any particular things that you really want to focus on that you like maybe haven't spent time on previously, or do you have any like personal goals with that stuff? I don't know how seriously like you take the goal setting side of things.
Yeah, I think it's obvious to me at this point that like video content is what people want. It's what the platforms want. Like Twitter is leaning into it. We know TikTok. We know YouTube Shorts.
YouTube Shorts are doing really well. Like Jack Settleman keeps sending me his info for YouTube Shorts. He's getting like millions of views on his shit. Like it's crazy.
Instagram Reels has like saved the platform. It's obvious that that's happening, and I kind of like I've held out for a while just because it's not my thing. Like I just don't ever make video content. I feel like I have no choice.
Feel your pain.
Right? It's like it's weird. It's very weird. There is a couple Discover X NFT TikToks on the platform. If you ever happen to find them, good luck. But they're out there, and that was it. Especially in this bear market, I look at like the Twitch influencers, like Aiden Ross, or like some of these people that have these like massive platforms, and it's like the space is pretty dead. Like, why not focus efforts and try to be more than like just a crypto Twitter account?
Yeah.
Because like somebody has to do it, right? Somebody has to like break through and relate to the rest. I don't love it. Like I don't even have TikTok downloaded. Like it hurts me
either.
to fucking
Download it last
make a video. But like if that's what it takes, like that's what we'll do. Is how I'm thinking about it. Video stuff and Spaces was a big transition for me as well. Like I hate public speaking. Like used to hate giving presentations in school. Like even like the pod is like not my thing. And I knew like it's so valuable, or what I found out is it's so valuable to be articulate and be able to talk to people. Because like everybody can type on Twitter, but you have to kind of go a step further. And when I first started at Spaces, I couldn't even finish a coherent thought. But like those connections and those experiences on Spaces, like you know more than anyone, feel so valuable, feel so genuine. And I got hooked on it. Like I really like Spaces, and I think it adds another layer to your content that people enjoy and makes you flexible. Like you could do more if you can also talk.
For sure. I was also somebody who I would never have called a fan of public speaking, but Twitter Spaces feel interesting. You're kind of more like a bar kind of vibing.
It's like a safe space too.
Almost feels like this. Except you're just hitting the mute button on mute and you're picking who to come up, but it's like
few emojis. The
vibe is so much different than text. But right now it's like the Space app is not great for promoting it. So it's kind of in a weird spot, and it's like, are we gonna have to go somewhere else? I feel like just because so much of the community is on Twitter, it's gonna be really hard to get any traction off of Twitter, like without building a new community relevant to that platform. Like, I don't know.
And that's the thing. Like, we talked at the beginning about the bear market. It's honestly not as bad as I thought, all things considered. I mean, ETH is $1,300. Like, NFT mints are like, it's not that bad, all things considered. But what's it going to look like in 6 months, right? Like,
we don't know.
And I host Spaces daily. They're still fun. There's still content, but like, what do they look like in 6 months? Like, is it sustainable? I don't know. I feel like you're kind of selling yourself short by not at least trying to do some other shit if that's your intent. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm going for. Might as well. It can't hurt, right, to have a safety net at the very least. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Are there any, like, NFT things that you're looking forward to recently? Or, sorry, in the near future, not recently.
I mean,
aside from IRL events.
IRL events are fun.
I know. Is this your first IRL event? How many have you
I went to NFT NYC.
Okay, that was your first one.
Which was cool, yeah. That was fun. Ape Fest was cool. That was a good time. Enjoyed it.
How do you feel about content at events? That's another question I should ask. Like, are you somebody who, like, when you're here in Miami, so you're trying to get 4 videos? Are you trying to get those videos like this, where it's like a long form thing? Or are you trying to be more like in the mix at an event?
I think I'm trying to do like I'm in the house with fucking K Money right now. So if
how's that going?
Good. It's been an experience, but great vibes. It's like I like his style a lot, and not a cut and paste of what he does, but I like how he like incorporates people and does like a video with his friends, with like other NFT people. I really enjoy that. I'm probably not gonna be at Ape Fest like with the camera out recording, but like maybe there's a video we can shoot and we can do it. I'm kind of in the spot where I'm like, I just need a baseline. Like I just need to put something out. Stop thinking about it. It's like hosting the first space, right? Like it's gonna suck. It's not. There's gonna be dead air. The topics aren't gonna be great. You're gonna fumble words. But once it's done, then you get a baseline to look at. I did this well. I did this bad. Pivot. Do a little better. That's where I'm at with the content side of things. I'm a big fan of IRL events. But go ahead.
No. Keep going.
I was just gonna say what I'm looking forward to is, gaming. Like we talked about it a little bit. I'm waiting for like the 2 a.m. Xbox party nights to just like the COVID nights to come back. Like those vibes where like the Pokemon Go energy, the euphoria. Like I'm desperate for that. And I feel like there's so many projects, so many people selling these crazy gaming dreams, and it's not here. Like it's not here yet.
I feel
right?
like the game that's gonna be good is one none of us buy, none of us
no one will know about it,
invest in, and it's just gonna be some like indie thing that's just like fun fucking play feedback loop, and then we get addicted to it. But like, I haven't found it. I'm playing Madden, and you're playing FIFA.
Mm-hmm. I just downloaded Madden. Just got it on PS5.
We gotta get Andy on some Madden.
I need to be in an apartment where I can get a PlayStation first.
Close. You're very close.
Yeah.
We're on like 20 episodes of this podcast. You haven't even sniffed an apartment that's your own since we started the podcast.
Yeah.
5 months ago.
Down bad. But
what was the intent behind starting the podcast?
Well, so a lot of it was just like Deeze is having fun on Twitter Spaces, doing all this shit, and I was like, dude, like we should just make a podcast. Like we can basically get anyone we want in crypto to come on this podcast and talk to them, and like every single podcast that you listen to is like a VC having on one of their portfolio companies' founders, like shilling their bag for 45 minutes. And it's just like really not fun content, not interesting content, unless you're like also a VC. Mm-hmm. And so we were saying like, let's just have actual conversations and, try to emulate like the most interesting podcasts that I like, which are much more conversational and just like getting to know people. And like, I don't need to know what your top 5 picks are for NFTs for the next month. Like, I don't really
What's
give
the
a
next
fuck.
100X?
Yeah. Like, and having just like normal conversations. And I think we knew it would be fun. I don't think we realized how much fun it would be. Mm-hmm. And so far, like, I think the reception's been pretty good as far as people listening to it and liking it. And
your guest list has been crazy too.
It's mostly Deeze. He's curated a lot there.
We're really lucky to just have a bunch of friends. Like I have a list that's over 100 episodes long and like growing every day. And it's just like anything that I'm like, oh, this would be like fun to talk about sometime. Throw it on the list. And we have this giant pool to go from. It's like we're in New York. We have a bunch of people in New York. We're in Miami. We have a bunch of people in Miami. Let's try to get some conversations. It's a lot more timeless than like the Twitter space. The Twitter space, nobody's going back and listening to like old spaces. They're just more ephemeral. People enjoy them in a moment. But like the podcast gives somebody a way to see this timestamp in history of this conversation. Maybe like look back 3-5 years from now, see how this person's grown and been like, oh damn, like look, this is when they talked in 2022. And I got a lot of I think the Joe Rogan podcast, I like always hate to use this example, but like
it's the best one now.
That's the one that I have listened to the most and enjoyed the most. And like one of my favorite things with Joe Rogan is how guests come on multiple times. So like the first time he has a guest on, that vibe's different. And then sometimes they come back in 6 months. Sometimes it's like 3 years. But then like that conversation shift then like changes my perception of the guest. And then sometimes like he'll have them on with like a round table, like Brett and Eric Weinstein, the brothers. Like you just go down like a whole rabbit hole and see these things kind of progress. And it's like that's why I kind of wanted to do in crypto. I was looking at vertical crypto art, Nicole. She did a bunch of talks back in like 2020, 2019 on YouTube. And like when I was going down crypto art rabbit holes, I was listening to her talk to like Hackatow and Cody and like all these OGs who back then were like selling art for a couple $100. And like listening to their perspective then versus like, oh, in 2021 everything's popping, like now these are like considered DOGs, and like here is the perspective of them when they were just vibing. Like I thought that was really cool, and nobody's really doing a lot of in-person stuff.
I was gonna ask you about that. Like where did that idea come from?
So I think Andy was like, it kind of like how you said, just schedule the first space. Andy's like, let's schedule the first pods, schedule 3 slots. We're like, let's just figure out the guests. Like we have a bunch of friends, and we liked it.
Yeah, and I think like the in-person makes it so much better. Like when I'm on a podcast on a stream, I have like 3 monitors. I have Twitter open.
I'm not paying attention.
I'm getting Slack messages for work. I'm getting texts. But like with this, we just kind of sit down and talk, and I feel like it's way more personal.
Yeah.
It's way easier to like also just have a fluid conversation where like Deeze and I literally do no prep for any episode. Like we'll be like, all right, this person's coming on. Sometimes I know who they are. Sometimes I don't really. Sometimes I don't really know their artwork or whatever. And it's like, all right, I'll figure it out. We'll talk.
Just roll it.
Yeah, and it's like,
I love that.
I feel like if we were on Riverside FM doing the same thing, we'd get like stuck up. It'd be harder to just have like that natural flowing conversation. But just sitting here on a couch, like it's really not very hard.
Do you find like no prep, just let it flow leads to better conversations?
I think so. I think it leads to more candid conversation.
For sure.
And I think that generally leads to better conversations where like, and it's not, you know, depending on what you want your podcast content to be, like it maybe not, but like for what we want, where we just want to like get to know you and vibe and hang out. Like if we come in with a list of here's our 20 questions we have to ask you, and we just like go down and say this, like that's not the same as like when we talked with Fiwo. He was like, he probably spent half an hour just asking Deeze and I questions. Just like turned the podcast around and was asking us what our favorite colors were and all this random shit. And it was like a really good conversation. And you got to learn a lot about him, even just from how he handled the podcast, like with there being no agenda.
And you wouldn't get that with
yeah, it'd be impossible.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like both having it be a longer one. Like I think that's one of the things that Joe Rogan does so well, even to a more extreme. For like we could definitely do some 3-hour podcasts.
Yeah, I mean Lex Friedman did an 8-hour one with Balaji. Yeah. Like I could
8 is crazy.
8 hours. Like you'd have to give me like a week to like have 8 hours worth of things to talk about that didn't become circular, but like I could definitely do longer than 2.
That's the same thing like I do with spaces. It's just like for the most part, like some days we'll have content, obviously shit happens in the space that we talk about, but on any given day it's just like start, no co-hosts, no speakers, like whoever comes and just kind of see where it goes. And I mean sometimes it can be a struggle, but more often than not I find like it's a really good experience. You got to try some new shit out. And like once you start doing it, kind of improving it on the fly, it gets easy. It gets really easy.
Oh, it's really, and you get to meet new people.
Yeah, and I think Deeze and I are also pretty good bullshitters too. So we can
100%.
Under a lot of drugs, and we'll just fucking keep this bullshit spewing.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned before I cut you off, that you get to meet a lot of new people, and it also is like, you actually get to know these people. Like, if I had met you for the first time at the party last night, I would have dapped you up, said, "Hey, what's up?" Gotten a drink, yelled at you for 5 minutes while we couldn't hear each other, and be like, all right, dude, I'll see you later. Like, I'll catch you around. But like having our first experience really getting to know each other, sitting down for an hour and a half talking, like I know you so much better now than I would have from a bunch of other things. So it's like almost a little bit selfish even, where it definitely is really good just for relationship building even.
Yeah, and you do it once, and then it's like you kind of have that experience for every future event that I see you. It's like I know you. Yeah. It's not like we talked on a Zoom stream for 30 minutes.
Do you notice that your interactions with your family have changed after doing more spaces and public speaking, like or like long form stuff like this?
I would say so a little bit. I would say like just in a general sense, I'm more confident in my voice. And I just feel more comfortable speaking about anything just because I've forced myself to speak under stressful, quote unquote, conditions. So now like any random conversation is like, oh, and even like meeting a new person, it's like, yeah, it could be weird. It could be stressful, but I literally shoot the shit with new people on spaces every single day, right? And come up with topics, keep it interesting. That part definitely carries over.
Yeah. Yeah, I find with my family, I'm a lot more like mindful of my time and trying to be present. Like doing this long form podcast, you start to realize like when's the last time you sat down with your parents for 90 minutes and like didn't look at your phone, and then like just talk to them about how you feel, how they feel about stuff. Like when I was home this last Thanksgiving trip a couple of days ago, like I just tried to be a lot more like present with what was going on, because I started to realize like, wow, I'm having all these conversations with wonderful people. I don't even talk to my family like this. And like it makes me appreciate that time a lot more.
That's a good call. Being a host has definitely led me to having better conversations, which then you learn more. Because like I learned pretty quick, right? Like you can watch host, you can take notes, but actually doing it is a different thing. The best conversations, the best spaces I've had is bring on some interesting people, ask them a question that they can talk about, and then just shut the hell up. And once I like kind of found that groove, and I have people like you on stage, it's like really easy to get into something deep. And then before we know it, we're talking, you know, about literally anything in these massive rabbit holes, which is
reminds me of when we had Justin on to talk about art gobblers, and he just like went on a tangent for like 2 hours.
So I have hosted a lot of spaces. I have never had I at one point almost texted Andy and was like, am I on drugs? Is this a filibuster? Is like something wrong? Like it's like 29 minutes where he just talked. Like imagine I asked you a question and it's for like 29 minutes.
29, you didn't forget that.
I was paying attention.
Yeah, it was fucking insane.
He answered every question we had without us asking, but like then also went down like 3 like partially maybe semi-traumatic rabbit holes that he shared
like
with
his
us.
Entire life story.
Like,
wow. On the space?
It's recorded too. Like it was one of the few spaces we've ever recorded.
Wow.
But like when he was talking, I was like, am I tripping? Like it's been
the dab's hitting a little
30
hard.
minutes.
Yeah, and every once in a while I'd like unmute because I was going to ask a question about something he said, and then he just keeps going, like, all right, mute again.
And then the problem was, the dabs. So we didn't know he was coming on the space. We had the space scheduled for 6 p.m. It was supposed to be with Dave White and Sir Dave from the Gobblers team. Maybe Frankie would have joined for Paradigm. And then at 5:59 in our group chat, Dave White for Paradigm says like, oh yeah, Justin's coming. And that's like 3 minutes after I just dabbed up, did my thing. I'm like, oh, I'm talking to friends. And then I'm like, we're talking to Justin Roiland for cool. Yeah. But then like he talked for 29 minutes and then I'm
he made it
coming
easy.
Down from this high and I'm like, is he like leaving any time for us to come?
And I'm like, I gotta go to dinner and I've said like 4 words. But like, guys, I gotta go.
How do you like that vibe? Because you've obviously had a ton of spaces, ton of podcast guests.
I want people to be themselves. Mm-hmm. So like if that was what he was feeling and that was himself, like it was awesome. It was
yeah, having spoken to him a couple times, like that is very much himself. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember the first time I spoke to him was actually like the first time they had a call to him about art gobblers. And it was like at that time it was a different idea, but you know, they were like just shooting the shit about different NFT things. And I'm on this call, and it's a Zoom call, and he's on his phone, obviously, and sitting in his bedroom, like just on his bed talking. And we're talking for a while. It started at like 5:30 or something, and all of a sudden it's like 6:30, and we like haven't really gotten that far along in the conversation. And he's showing us his entire board game collection, and I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, what part of the conversation went from like, yeah, so I have this cool like experimental art idea to like, oh yeah, I've really enjoyed this board game lately. Like, what do you guys think?
I have a rare copy of Monopoly.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, I'm fucking messaging some of the guys in the chat. I'm like, Allie made dinner. Like, I thought this call was scheduled for 30 minutes. We're an hour long in. We have not gotten to the point of the conversation, and he's showing us his board game collection. Like, I gotta go. Like, I don't know what to do. But like, I think that's just like very much so who he is. And so like, he fucking crushed it on the Twitter Spaces. Like, it was awesome to hear, and he's like very well spoken. He was able to explain a lot. It just like he has his own roundabout way of getting there. And I think it like honestly, you listen to that Spaces and you're like, oh, I totally get how he made Rick and Morty now. Like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Like, the dude's fucking insane. He's a genius, but he's also like fucking insane.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of those things where like I don't ever want to cut anyone off, so it's like, let's go. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, your parents like took you to scary movies when you were 5, and then like played pranks on you that, you know, maybe they got abducted or taken over by aliens, and now you're being raised by aliens. And you were like in elementary school, like, yeah, maybe I can see how Rick and Morty came to be, and like maybe I emphasize a little more with the art because I have some backstory, and like a lot of people don't get to hear that because they don't listen to someone talk for that long. It's
a good Twitter space. I listen to it sometime. Whenever like I download it like a podcast or something, listen to it.
We might have to like just cut it from Twitter Spaces and put it up as a pod so we have it.
That's a good idea, honestly.
Like we should definitely make a note to do that. Like before Twitter access the recording, because they definitely like have changed their tune on space recordings over time. When Spaces first came out, you had to download your Twitter archive, which came in a big zip, and then there was a Spaces folder. And then there were these weird files, like they weren't MP3s or like a WAV. They were a file that you had to convert to an MP3 or a WAV.
Oh, nah.
And then all the names of the spaces were like a hash or garbage. So like you didn't know like, oh, this is the GN NFTs from June 31st. You're like, oh, this is VA1694332 whatever.
Looks like my wallet address.
And then you're clicking, you're like, oh, I hosted 60 spaces this month. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one.
Oh, man.
Nope, not that one. And that was life. And then eventually they had recordings, but they only lasted for a month. And now it seems like they last forever, but I don't trust them. So it's basically at the end of the day, like any space content you want to have long term, you have to take it off the platform.
We got to download that Kobe space.
Yeah?
We need that, yeah.
With the sappy seals?
Yeah. Hey, don't say that. They might pump.
Kobe came on a space, a GN NFTs, mentioned like not even sappy.
So he said the word sappy. He was like, what's that sappy thing? That was it.
And then they started like 25 ETH of volume.
250 sales.
Oh, man. Fucking NFTs.
I'm still waiting my royalty from Wob.
It's over.
Should we
should wrap up.
Yeah, let's do it.
We asked this question to everybody. So I'm going to ask you. If you were writing an autobiography, what would the title of your autobiography be?
What would the title of my autobiography be? That's a good question.
Shout out. I stole it from somebody who I was on their podcast and they asked me. Eshe.
At this point, like 2022, next up.
Next up
With a period.
Not exclamation point?
No, period, yeah.
I like that.
Do you want to explain it or do you want to just leave it?
I think for me, like, I've had the craziest year of my life. Like, the last 12 months have been
it's been a lot.
It's been a lot. And I always, like, in the back of my head, like, knew that I was going to get here somehow. What the space is, how I do it, what I'm doing is who fucking knows. But I feel like the last 12 months, I really proved to myself that, like, okay, we can do this. Like, we made the right move, you know, done with college. Like, the things I subconsciously knew are coming true. And I'm looking at it now where it's like this bear market blessing in disguise. I really feel like I'm not going anywhere. I'm doubling down. And if the last 12 were crazy and the space accomplished this much, but also I as well, the next 12, the next 24 is when it's really going to be real.
It's when shit gets real.
Yeah. And like, we're really here now. Because like August 21 was insane. But for me, I had $5,000 and no fucking idea what fungible meant. I still don't. But I had a little less money then. And I feel like we're here now.
Yeah. Nice.
Next up. Dude, it blows me away like how young you are. I look at you and I'm just like, damn, like you're 20. You got it.
Yeah, you can't even drink.
Yeah, don't tell the events that. We'll post this next week.
21. Sorry.
22 in Delaware.
Nice. Shout out.
But no, thank you for hanging out with us, man. It's been a vibe.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was a blast. Thank you. That was a quick hour and a half, too.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Time flies. Yeah.